Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwin, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about Chaos Space Marines as we get into the Blood Gorgons. This is a very interesting chapter, and it was a suggestion by one of you guys. So if you guys have any suggestions for other traitorous Space Marine legions or chaotic legions, please comment down below. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we post Warhammer 40K content every single day. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Blood Gorgons. The Blood Gorgons are a renegade chapter of Chaos Space Marines that primarily raid the Bastion sector of Imperial space. The Blood Gorgons, who value their freedom and independence above all else, refuse to swear allegiance to any patron god, preferring to serve Chaos in general in the form of Chaos Undivided. The Traitor Marines of this renegade chapter wear power armor the color of burnt umber. Barnacles and fossilized organisms spread across the sweeping surface of each plate. There is an organic element to their regal, accentuated by the mutant growth of dorsal fins, aquills, and hard segmented shells. The Blood Gorgons chapter badge is that of a Gorgon's head drawn from Terra's ancient Greek mythology. The Blood Gorgons were founded during the cursed 21st founding, the largest founding of Space Marine chapters since the second founding immediately following the Horus Heresy. The founding took place in the 36th millennium, shortly before the start of the Age of Apostasy, known as the Project Homo Sapien Novus. The Adeptus Mechanicus were attempting to remove identified deficiencies in the standard Adeptus Astartes gene seed. Their goal was to ultimately produce new and improved Space Marines, capable of more easily defeating the traitor Astartes who had emerged during the heresy. Unfortunately, the Adeptus Mechanicus genitors proved far less skilled in the genetic science than the Emperor of Mankind, and their efforts resulted only in the development of seriously flawed gene seed that was used to craft the Astarte organ implants for the new chapters. Led by their chapter master, and later Chaos Lord, Gamadin, who had been the Blood Gorgons' leader from the time of their founding until the day when the Imperium declared them renegade and excommunicate traitorous a mere 6 decades later. The chapter ultimately fled into the Eye of Terror after swearing themselves to the service of Chaos. The Blood Gorgons had not always been a unified chapter before the reign of Gamadin. They had been driven from their homeworld by the Space Wolves, transformed into a broken chapter, pursued into the warp by those lupin hunters. The Blood Gorgons were little better than thieves before they were driven from real space. They were forced to forage and hide, always hunted by the Emperor's hounds, making their home in a drifting space hulk known as the Cauldron Born. The Battle Brothers of the Blood Gorgons had stayed together during this time only out of need for survival, and the chapter was divided by minor war captains and factions who sealed off entire sections of the Cauldron Born to serve as their own personal fiefdoms. There was no dignity any longer for this once proud band of Astartes. It was Gamadin who ultimately reunited the warring companies under his leadership as their ruling Chaos Lord called Corsad, just as he once had been their chapter master under the same title. It was he who waged an intra-chapter war that left much of the Space Hulk in ruins, even to this day. But in the aftermath of this terrible fracture, the Blood Gorgons found a cohesion and unity extremely rare amongst the servants of Chaos. Gamadin devised the Blood Gorgons' distinctive rituals of blood bonding between his Astartes to ensure that his chapter would never again fight internally, pledging their very existence to each other and to the service of the ruinous powers of Chaos. Never would any Blood Gorgon turn his blade on his brother again. Above all else, the Blood Gorgons had always valued their freedom to operate independently as a chapter marked by the practices of specific rituals and traditions. It is valued above all else. The Blood Gorgons consider themselves renegades and seek to damage the rule of the Emperor wherever they have a chance. But they have not been lured into the more fiendish depths of arcane chaotic lore, like the warbands of their more superstitious brethren among the traitor legions. They consider themselves a band of warriors first and foremost, before their allegiance to chaos. Despite their worship of chaos undivided, they believe sorcery is a fickle and dangerous thing, to be feared and respected, and it is best that it remains at a distance. This is another reason why the majority of the chapter's bond brothers find themselves untrusting of their surgeons, who are far too steeped in the arcanes of chaos sorcery. When Gamadin had first begun to experiment with demonology and the rituals that would form later Blood Gorgon customs, the Corsad used the dark ritual to strengthen the bonds between the battle brothers of his chapter. Utilizing the superhuman consistency of an Astartes, the chapter's surgeons or apothecaries had transfused blood and tissue from each pair of potential bond brother into one another. Utilizing Gamadin's knowledge of arcane lore, rituals from a forgotten heretical text were followed, creating an almost supernatural connection between those who survived the procedure. A pair of bond brothers who have undergone the surgery and the accompanying ritual become so attuned in battle that it has been known that they gain the ability to react intuitively, making the tactical decisions to aid each other without communication. When Gamadin's own bond brother angered the Chaos Gods, and his form was corrupted into that of a Chaos Spawn, Gamadin slew him, an act that apparently caused him considerable physical pain. Feeling the old wounds of the one's bond brother is also a common experience between the pairs. Before going into battle, the Blood Gorgons perform the solemn ritual which Gamadin named the Sacrifice of War. Usually, these rituals require each pair of Blood Gorgon bond brothers to re-swear their oath of brotherhood. Then each pair cut a small portion of their flesh off, or slice open a part of their body. A tiny sample of blood and flesh are then collected into a brass bowl, and the blood tissue is diluted with an alcohol solution. The blood is traditionally mixed with fermented mead, though honey is sometimes used by the chapter. Though it is simply more efficient to manufacture an alcoholic solvent, the sacrifice of armament then follows. The blood brothers are stripped naked and lower their bodies into a simmering cauldron. The water is hot enough to parboil the outer layer of skin. Once immersed, the inflamed skin is then vigorously rubbed with coarse grained salt. Lastly, a thick white salve of wood, a mixture of animal fat, minerals, and biochemicals, is applied to toughen the skin, numbing it. After this epidermal treatment, the Chaos Space Marine's suit of armor are fitted into place, segment by segment. The plugs, stem cords, and synap wires are connected from the armor of each Blood Gorgon's black carapace implant. The attendants, slaves, and bond brothers then begin to chant a simple rhythmic cadence in order to placate the armor's machine spirit as it coalesces from its sleeps. Finally comes the sacrifice of smoke. This ritual is usually found to be the most pragmatic of the chapter's pre-deployment ceremonies, despite its superstitious nature. It is common when in the warp for certain objects to go missing. To the minds of many warriors, this phenomenon was unexplained and vaguely disturbing. Small items left unlocked or unbolted would disappear. Sometimes these could be vital pieces of war gear or even the firing pin of a bolter. In order to prevent such warp poltergeist activity, most loyal chapters prayed to the Emperor and erected gargoyles within and without their starships. The Blood Gorgons observed this superstition in their own way by discharging firecrackers and parading in their war helms before battle. It was the Blood Gorgons' belief that war helms needed to be terrifying enough to scare even their allied demons of chaos, or ill fortunes will be invited. The Bond brothers often dance in a strange spasmodic dance before battle, executing clumsy movements in their power armor as their slaves beat drums and sing. With the final sacrifices complete, the fully armored Bond brothers stand ready to wage war. After the sacrifice of war is complete, the Bond brothers who are about to deploy into combat gather within the Space Hulk's Hall of Solemn Supper. This narrow, antiquated chamber lies deep within the Space Hulk's furnished core, with great wooden beam ceilings dating from the time when the ship was still abandoned. Here, the Blood Gorgons came to feast before deployment, and as is customary, received their pre-mission assembly with their company commander. Although this meal marks the last stage of squad-level planning and tactics, it is also a somber time to gather and feast among their brothers. And those were 40 facts on the Blood Gorgons. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now you know that not every single Chaos warband of Space Marines actually is looking for mutated gifts of Chaos. So the Space Marines are born with the idea that they are supreme beings, that their body is a temple, it's holy, it's created by the Emperor. And even though they do go to Chaos, they still maintain, or at least some warbands still maintain that ideology that they are supreme beings, their bodies do not need change, they just need enhancements. So mutations are, like you saw with the Blood Gorgons, are seen as bad. And if they do mutate, they turn into spawns or whatever, they either kill themselves or another battle brother kills them. But again, guys, if you have any other suggestions for topics of Warhammer 40K, please comment down below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever social media you use. That really helps us out, and it helps spread the word of Warhammer 40K out there. And if you don't know, we have 3 giveaways going on right now. You could win a Dark Eldar, Necron Starter Collection box set, or the new box set with the Primaris Marines and the Plague Marines. If you check out our 40 facts on the Necron Overlord, 40 facts on the Dark Eldar Cabal, and 40 facts on the Lost Primarch, that explains how you can participate and have a chance to win those awesome box sets. So don't forget about that. It's going on this entire week. And thank you so much for tuning in every single day and listening to us read you the lore of Warhammer 40K. And I'll see you tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.